Well, hello. Gosh, Ghost is trying to attack. He is full on, I need some attention mode. So we're going to have Ghost with us this morning. Hi, buddy. Do you want to kind of move over here? That would be nice. He is just like full on in here. Well, hello and welcome, and thank you very much for coming on. I am trying to work this with Ghosty in here, but he's going to find a spot to sit while we look at dioramas. Thank you very much for coming in, and happy Friday. So today I'm trying to see what he's up to. I don't know where he went. He's right behind me, I guess. So today we are going to talk about the repair of like the lower level of my diorama, and also this lighting thing. This it's actually just the wiring. The lighting. Well, I did the lighting too, but man, I gotta adjust my glasses. Getting the wiring just where I needed it, that was a huge issue. I have like swapped things back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on my diorama, which is right over here. So I'm gonna, actually I can do this so you can kind of see the diorama behind me. So thanks very much for coming in. Excuse me, I'm gonna say hi to some folks that are here. I gotta just say hi to Daniel. Hey, Will is here. Hello, Will. Thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate you being here. Dev Prince of Bel Air, thanks very much. We are so back. That's awesome. Thanks very much for coming in. And then Jordy said, or I'm sorry, Will says hi to Ghost. So he just exited. So he just had to come up, get some snuggles. He's back outside. Probably to go hunt because it's really actually nice outside. Since it's been actually it's been pretty rough weather. You know, we had power outages and a big old storm last week and all kinds of things. But the fun thing is I got a chance to work on that and solve some, I thought, some big issues. You know, I've been struggling with getting the lighting exactly right in this thing. And when the lighting was right, then I had to figure out the power. And then when the power was right, then I had all these electrical cords, and man, it was just, I was back and forth. Well, I'm going to show you pictures, so we'll get into it. But yeah, it was really kind of a roller coaster of figuring out, okay, this works, but then that has to change, and then that works now, but then I got to go back and change this. So it was just this slide puzzle of making all these things fit. And finally, I got it, and I'm pretty happy with it. And it's part of suggestions that I've gotten online, plenty of those. But it's also just like, man, what do I have available? And you know, I think that's a big deal when you're building your diorama, when you're building your model. You get an idea and you want to solve something. And it's easy enough to say, well, I need to 3D print that. Well, it's not easy. You have to have the facilities and the capabilities and the machinery and all that kind of stuff. But there is a way to go ahead and say, well, I'm just going to 3D print it. Or if you've got more time and things like that, you say, well, I'll have this done for me. Or I'll buy the materials to do something specific. I've always kind of been, what can I do with what I have? You know, and for that purpose, I mean, my shop. If you've been around the channel for a little bit, you've seen pictures of my shop. I hope so. And in the shop for, gosh, 30 plus years, I've just been stockpiling stuff. And I'm not talking about some really nice stuff. I'm like crud. I mean, like garbage. Not garbage so much, but like, okay, we buy something and it breaks. I can sometimes repair it, and if I can't repair it, then I take it apart and I keep every screw, nut, washer, weird fixtures, whatever that I think maybe I could be able to use, or I could use in a diorama or something, you know. So I have, you know, kind of a pack rat of just stuff in the shop that I can use, and I love that. Now, I didn't have to go real exotic or nothing like that. I just, to solve this issue, I just used some styrene. But I didn't have all the styrene I needed. You know what I mean? I didn't have all the stuff that and I think that is one thing that helps you if you're a scratch builder or a builder, is not having everything that you need that, like, well, I need to build this. And so you say, well, I need this, 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 and this. So you go buy those things and then you build it. Well, that's perfectly fine. It's still, a difficult task. But the tack I take, kind of alluding to what I said earlier, is I'll do that, but I like to say, well, I don't have exactly what I need to do, but I do have this, 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 and this. And then how do I figure out how to do it? I will go to those lengths far beyond necessity because I think it's fun. I love that figuring out of stuff that I don't have it, but what can I make do with? And that is just, that's just part of your growing up, I think. It was for me. When we were growing up, we didn't always have what we needed to do whatever. And I think it builds within you this ability to see things and kind of modify or whatever to make it suit your needs. And scratch building is owes a lot to that, I guess, is the best way to say it. Because that's what I do. I love scratch building and I love figuring those things out. Again, with the materials I had. So that's what I did. And I think it came out great. And I think that whole process, it helps you build an ability or skills, I guess, that allow you to do it in the future a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to do it the next time you do it, or it gives you the confidence to say, hey, I didn't have what I needed, but I totally built this one thing that I really love. That can then, give you the confidence to try it again. So that's what I do. And I think that makes it a lot more challenging. But again, the confidence and the skill building that comes from that can really be used later on in life. Not just like, oh, on this model, or, oh, I figured this thing out. That's a skill building. That's a learning that I think is really valuable. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is it's not always the best thing to have everything that you need. Sometimes I think you get really interesting solutions, problems, when you don't have everything you need, when you really got to think it out, when you really got to go, man, I don't have that, but what else could I use? I think that's a very valuable skill. So anyway, that I did a lot of that. So I need to talk to some folks here. So Death Prince of Bel Air, a Bitbox. Hello, Bill. Hobby. Hey, thanks, Christian, for coming in. I really appreciate it. So thanks very much for coming on. Let's go ahead and start talking about what I done this week. So here, I think this is a cool image, this on the right-hand side. That is supposed to be a shield, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what it in fact is it's basically a hand crank for a mechanism that is in the lowest level of the diorama. And that mechanism, this handle thing, this round deal, I don't know if you can notice there's a handle on the right-hand side of it. I kind of thought it looked like a shield, like a battle shield or something like that. So I'm like, wow, what I can do is make it look like a hanging shield or an ornament on the wall. And that's what I did. So we'll go back and look at that. And then Death Bits of Bel Air says, unfortunately, the wife won't let me keep a large trash collection. Yeah, mine is a little bit like that too. She goes, what are you going to do with this? And so here's the thing that I do. I will go back, and she, to her chagrin, I will go back and say, hey, look, I found a use for this today. And it's like something that and this is real, I don't want to be like, but we may have had an argument 10 or 12 years ago that I'm going to save this. And she's like, why are you saving this? And I'm like, because I want to use it. And she's like, well, it's just a piece of garbage. And then 10, 12 years later, I'll use it. And it's not an I told you so. It's just that, no, this is the method behind my madness is keeping these things around because it's fun to be able to have something that you've kept around for literally that amount of time or even more, and go back and use it. So my wife doesn't really, well, now she understands it. She totally understands it now. But initially, she's like, why would you keep these? I've got boxes of parts, just parts, just like you were saying, the parts bin, the bit box, bits that you use. Yeah, I had to justify it with her, and now she gets it. But if you're just starting out, they may not understand, and I'm not just saying a wife may not understand. I'm saying any of your partners just may not get this because maybe they don't do this kind of thing. Maybe they don't have that vision to be able to see something here and see something there and go, hey, if I put these together, it's going to look like something different. Completely unrelated to those two items separately, but when you put them together, they now looks like something else. That's magic to me. I love that. So anyway, I just kind of keep going on about stuff. Let's go back and look at these things. Hey, Marcus here. Hello, Mark. Thanks very much for coming in. It's great to see you. Mark is one of my friends from the local clubs and stuff like that. And he's also a patron. So thanks very much, Mark. So we're going to look at these. These are my slides. And the first thing I'd like to do is talk about this. Next weekend is the Model Officers Mess Birthday Bash 2025. And what they do is a 48 in 48. Now, what is that? So a 48 in 48 is 48 scale model, and you've got 48 hours to build it. Now, I've done 3 of these, I think, so far. I've completed 1. So it's not that you have to race and you have to finish it in 48 hours. It's not that. But what it is you are building in a communal kind of, atmosphere. It's online and stuff like that. And you join this online group and you're building a model, a 48th scale model, and with people, and you're talking and stuff like that. Then the other thing that they're doing, let's go back to the little deal here. They're also doing an auction. And what this is for, if you look at it right up on top there, in support of Models for Heroes. Now, Models for Heroes is an organization. It's out of the UK. So they're supplying things to UK soldiers that have, come back. They're veterans. And Models for Soldiers provides kits and supplies and a community for soldiers to build models. It's a wonderful, wonderful charity. And what they do during the 48 hours is every once in a while, it might be on the hour or on every 2 hours. I can't remember what the interval is. But they offer things up for auction. Great kits, books. There's a list of contributors and things like that to have some really nice things that you can bid on. And then all of that money goes towards Models for Heroes. Again, in the UK, though they do it in the US as well, all the money goes to there. Now, there is a US component to this. I don't know how all that works out yet, but they are looking for a sponsor to do stuff in the US. Right now, it all goes to the UK, but I think that the Models for Heroes can come to the US as well. And that's something that James Skiffins is happy to work toward. That being said, there are US sponsored prizes and things like that you can get because when you bid on something, you want to kind of know where it's from. And then they'll ship it to you. And so there's certain things in the US. Well, that's what I'm trying to participate in. So I've got a block that will come up. I'm not exactly sure when, but it'll be a 2-hour live one-on-one with me. We're doing it live. We're starting, or if you have a diorama that you're working on and you want to work on it and you want someone to talk to you about, someone that has some background in it, somebody that can help you answer some questions, something like that. That's what I'd like to provide. So it's a 2-hour one-on-one, just like this. Well, it's not like just like this because we would both be online. I would give you the link, and then for 2 hours, we get to go over it. If we need to break it up into 2 1-hour, that's perfectly fine. Very, very flexible in that. But it's the ability to have someone that has done a lot of dioramas to help you get through to build your first diorama. Or if you're in the middle of a diorama, to kind of, hey, I've got a couple of questions. I don't want to go here or there with it. So that's what I'm going to be offering. Again, I don't know when that'll be, but it'll be fun, and then people can bid on it. And then once the person decides, or once a winner is decided, then I'll contact you, and then we'll set up a 2-hour live one-on-one to go over your diorama. I think it'll be a wonderful thing. I hope folks appreciate it. I didn't really have, I'm looking for a job right now. So I didn't really have anything I could contribute, but I was hoping my time and some experience and maybe doing things one-on-one would be fun for folks. So that's going to be part of the auction next week. And boy, I'm really excited to work with someone to do it. Because that is one of the things that I do, is I do work with some folks on building their dioramas. It's a lot of fun. You see, honey, Bill gets it. See, there you go. Death Prince of Bel Air. He's like, yeah, come on. See, Bill understands. So you have to work your way into that pack rat kind of mentality about gathering those things. I do try to keep it organized, though. These pack rat kind of tendencies that I have. Yeah, there are shelves in the office, or in the shop, I should say. You open it, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? It's just crap just thrown in there. So though I try to keep it organized, yeah, it can get a little messy. But Mrs. Modelcraft is great. She understands its need today. Scott says, hello. Hello, finally made it. Shopping took longer than expected. No worries, Scott. We're still here and happy that you made it. So thanks very much. So let's get to this thing. I've been yammering and talking about this 48-hour thing. I really hope you can make it, even if you don't bid or anything like that. It's really fun to participate. It's really fun to be online. It's really fun to talk to the folks in the community, and some really neat people. There are going to be some really fun and interesting modelers on this 48 and 48 as well, so that when you go on, you can ask questions of modelers like Rick Lawler and Lawler, Adam Wilder, the Plastic Posse folks. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There's a lot of people involved in this 48 and 48. It's going to be a big, big event, and love for you to, be able to participate. So that is next weekend. It's the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Check it out on www.48-48.com. 48-48.com. That's James Skiffin's site, and you'll get some great information about it. So I hope everybody can make it if you're interested. I think it's a great charity, and even if you can't participate or bid on anything, it's wonderful to be there and show support for soldiers and models for heroes. Okay, so now Temple device repair. This is the temple level of my D&D diorama, and if you look in here, there's this mechanical device, and on the right hand side, this thing right here, there's supposed to be this big crank handle on it so you can make this thing move. See, by cranking this handle on the right-hand side, the stuff up above moves. So that broke off while I was working. And the reason is there's the thing that's supposed to be on it, that's the thing that broke off. And this is what it is. So when I made this was one piece of wood, the shaft going between the right hand side and the handle crank. It already broke once. You can see that light piece, in here. This little piece in here, that was already replaced one time. Well, it was the other side broke off, and so I just had to go into full-on repair mode. And so what I did was I found this piece of aluminum. Thought that's going to work nice. But I need to have that aluminum going through the whole thing, not just like pin on either side of that piece of wood. So I took that long piece of aluminum, cut it down to size, and I started like hogging out the inside of this very, very small stick. You can see like on the edges there, I cut those lines, and I was going to hog out the middle, kind of make a channel in there, bury the stick in it, and then put another piece of wood on it. That didn't work for a hoot. It just did not work. So I decided, now wait a minute. I took the original piece, this is the original piece that's in between there right now. I cut both ends off, and then I just drilled it out, and it actually drilled out fine. I was able to drill all the way through that. I kind of hit it from one side, flipped it over, hit the other side. And I was able to keep it centered by hand. I'm holding it with the drill press. And I was able to bore the thing out. So once it was bored out, then I bored out the other side. This is the other, this is part of the universal gear side of it. And then I put it all back together with the aluminum shaft. You can kind of see the aluminum shaft in there now. Put it back together. There's a little universal gear here, and it works. Now, the handle or the shaft and everything works, but I still needed to do the crankshaft, the thing that came off. So it's up there at the top, but then this is a little piece of copper that I had. And so I annealed it. I put this little dimple in the top of it, hammered it out. And then what I did was I made this look like a shield. Because, I mean, okay, so it's medieval, right? And I thought in a building, there's a lot of like, there was this battle or that battle or this warrior or that warrior, and so I figured like this would be like a shield that meant something, right? So somebody puts it up on a wall, and then after like 15, 20 years, everybody forgets about it. You just walk in and you just forget it's there. That's kind of what I was looking to do. I wanted this to look like a battle prize or something like that, you bring back from combat, and then it goes on the wall to commemorate it, and then people forget about it. So that's kind of the idea for this thing. I thought that would be kind of cool to make it look like a shield. So I made those little marks in there. I dimpled those with a punch, basically a little nail set. Then I painted it up. I put this is just some very small aluminum that I punched out and put some bolts on there. And then once I painted it up, I thought it looked great. I think I need to do a little bit more highlighting of the bolts that go around the outside of it, because they don't pop quite enough, but I'm really happy with the rest of it. And then that's where it goes. So this I made a little wall hanger for it. So it slides on there, and then that is on, or it's in the offices, the accounting offices above Barrett's Coffee House. Below here is Barrett's Coffee House, and then up here, this is the accounting offices. So that's where it went, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks cool. It's just mounted on the wall, and you need that to finish the game. As you're going through the game and stuff, if you don't have that, I mean, you could do it with your hands. But in the game, if you don't have that, you can't complete the game. So that's like one of those things that you have to discover, find, whatever, as you're going through the D&D campaign. So I was pretty happy with that. Now, wiring. Oh my goodness. So after I got that done, then I came back to this. So this is the power supply for the lighting in the diorama. And I had it so that I had this cover over it, and I was going to stick it up in the attic. And I'm going to show you kind of here. This is not a great picture, but up there in the attic, in the actual diorama, that's where I was going to have the power supply. Previous to that, I was going to have it down below. And I've done this little move back and forth because I'm trying to place these lights in here. I've done this little move back and forth a couple of times. So here's the attic. I was going to have power up there and then have all these wires coming from there and then cascading down underneath this power supply and that little thing that I put on top of it. Well, this week I figured out that's not going to work again. And so I had to move it. Now, like I say, I've done this 3 or 4 times, where I have the power supply below, then I have it up, then I have it down. So every time I do this, I have to take the whole thing completely apart, rearrange everything, and then put it all back together. And it's just been, a couple of weeks, if not more, I've been doing that, trying to find the right combination. Well, I think I cracked it. So here's what we got. I want to explain this first. This picture shows a light over here on the right hand side. Can you see that? It's on this black beam. There's a light there. And that black beam, so I'm sorry, I can't take it apart. But on that beam, basically, here's like the face of the beam. I just stuck the light right there. So the light was kind of shining this way. And that was fine because what it was doing is it was shining into that room from the back. So it would light the room when you're, looking from the back. It lit the room pretty good. Well, the problem with that was if you turn the diorama around like it's facing now, and you look through these windows in Barrett's Coffee House, I can move this a little bit better, in here in Barrett's Coffee House, you see that light? Well, that's not too bad because you're looking at an up angle, but when you were level with this and looking in, and those lights were facing directly to you, how I had them before in this picture, I know it's kind of hard to see there, but those were shining right out the front windows. And by having them shine out right the front, here's the same thing. The light is on this crossbar behind you or in the foreground. It just, it didn't look right. It didn't look natural. So I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have the lights come down from the ceiling. So that's what this is. Now I'm looking in the attic, and from underside, I cut a little, just a little hole like that. Very, very small. It's about 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/16. And then I built this little box. So now these are diorama lights. The whole diorama is sponsored lighting wise by Dioramo, so it's really cool. But I made this little box. That little box, and I did put an end on it. It's not just 3 sides. There's 4 sides. I just need to cut out the little area for the electrical. But then I took those little boxes and I placed them, 2 of them, upside down on that. Now that gives me this. So you can see up there, there's light coming through. There's no fixture. And this was a problem for me. The whole time I'm thinking, well, I can't have like a hanging chandelier because these levels are meant to unstack. And they still do, by the way. But these levels are meant to unstack. And if you set that down, you've got a hanging chandelier from the roof, which is on the bottom of the other one. I'm going to crush the chandelier. So that's a problem. They didn't have electrical lights in medieval times, of course. It's before the discovery of electricity. So I couldn't really have wires going in a hanging light. I wasn't sure how to do it. So not out of frustration, but I just thought, look, I need to light it. I need light in there. And so it's not period, by having just like this hole in the ceiling and then I've got basically a recessed light. But it does solve the issue of just getting light in there so you can see stuff. So I don't know how I 100% feel about it. I really wish I could show where the light's coming from, but honestly, I'm not. And I'm not going to care about it too much. I do care about it, you can tell. But I think that it looks better than, number one, the way I had it before. Sconces I thought about, but they wouldn't have worked right. I just had to make a decision. And I like it. I don't want you to think that I'm not happy with this. I love the way the light looks in there now. And it does just come down and fill those rooms even better than it was when it was on just like those crossbars and shining inward like that. Now that it's shining down, the shadows look proper. The shadows look more appropriate, with light coming down. And it just looks right in the room. Although there's no lamp or light shade or oil lamp or candle or whatever, it just looks better. So I'm happy with it. But yeah, I would rather have had something that looks appropriate. The only thing I could think of would be kind of like a hanging chandelier with a bunch of candles around it. That's what I thought. And I started building one. But the whole thing of unstacking and, crushing the thing, I was just like, yeah, I don't have a way out of that. So this is one of those areas where A little prior planning would have probably been appropriate. I did not do any prior planning. I always knew I was going to do lighting in this. I just didn't plan it out all the way. Like sometimes, well, I've not had that need in the past. And I think I've tried to talk about this before. In planning lighting for your diorama, and we can look at some more pictures as we do it because I did some more lighting. This one, I'm not coming through. This is the underside, but I'm just basically cutting notches in the joists here. That's allowing me to place a light. Again, I'm just emanating light. There's going to be no lamp or shade or nothing. It's just the light. And then I put this little channel over it, and then I routed it, you know, to go through the wall here properly, so it can't really be seen from underneath or from the side. It'll just fade away, but there's just light in the room. And so that's where it is. And thanks, Will, because I think that is a fair point. Sometimes you just gotta, just something that has no compromise, or has to compromise. And that's what it was. You know, it was a compromise, because I didn't find a better way to do it. If I had thought it out a little bit more during the build, I probably could have figured it out. But frankly, I still don't see how I could have done it because of the unstacking part. That's the big deal. If things weren't unstacking, I think I would have a heck of a lot more opportunities to put sconces, because that was the last thing I thought of, is sconces, you know, because you would see these braziers and things burning and off the wall, and you know, that's a fair idea, sconces and braziers and stuff like that for lighting. I just, yeah, the stacking and unstacking, I couldn't quite work that out. But I learned some fun stuff, and I am happy with it. And the best part about it is the light is effective. Very effective. It lights, it casts beautiful shadows. There's a nice, though they're white lights, because of the look of the room, there's a nice amber tone to it. Yeah, I'm very happy with the lighting. No apologies for it, though thinking it out earlier would be helpful. Okay, so let's get back to this. Take a look. So I put them in there. I got them mounted in, and then I needed to talk about the power. And remember, that was the whole thing before. This is a picture when I had the power supply as well as the switches coming from the attic, and everything was then falling down to the bottom level. And then I just needed to find a way to hide those wires. And that was going to work. Well, it didn't. As I started working with this, there was just, this is a pretty big unit. I mean, there's 8 AA batteries in there. You know, here's the unit, and it's actually pretty compact, and it's nicely made, and I love it, and it works great. Just plugs right in to the little power control thing that I have, you know, right there, the yellow piece from Dioramo. Works fantastic. But for me, finding a place to put it, you know, I built that cover on it, and it's up there in the diorama. But I built that cover, and that cover was fine, and it did its job really well. But it really crowded up that area. And after I had all those wires bound up and kind of going down where I wanted them to go, I couldn't put this power supply where I wanted to, because when you bound the wires, they didn't have as much length to put it where I wanted, so it just wouldn't work. So I'm perplexed again. So I go back to the drawing board. I got to move this thing back down, and that's what I did. I moved it back down to the lower area, and so that's here. Now, in here, there's a couple of advantages. This is below the street. Now, what that means is right here on the diorama, it is between the street level and the surface or the ceiling of the sewer system. So I've got it sandwiched in between 2 levels, and it fits in there really nicely. And that's this picture here without the top on it, without the street level on top of it. And I also dug out some areas in there to hide some of the wires. That was another thing that was very helpful. I didn't really have that ability to hide as many wires in as clean as a way with that cover that I had from the power coming up from the top going down. Now that I have it here, I do have a place to stow wires and hide this. This is hot glued down, so it's not going to go anywhere. And then I can actually reach in there and put power, the DC power supply to it, and it's a much better system. So I've got that there, and now I've got to route wires to it. The wires are plugged in, but I gotta like hide them. I gotta, get something over them so it looks right. So that's what this is. And I'll show you a little bit more. I use tubing. And I've got some tubing here to show you. I had it. What the heck did I do with it? Oh, this is the tubing that I used for these, to make basically downspouts. I had a couple of great, well, I had many great suggestions, but the two that I concentrated on were like a downspout. I thought that was a good one. But I only had so much material. Remember I said I like to use, I mean, if I went out and bought more of this, I could have done a little bit different something. But this is all I had, this and what I used. And so I devised a way to cut this slot down one side, and which is not easy. I don't know if you've done this kind of thing, but if you're trying to take something like this, say there's no slot in there, and you're trying to cut it, trying to, just keep a straight line is a nightmare. So that's what this is. I'm going to show you this picture again. This is this. So I had cut this channel earlier to possibly use it to hide the wires. I was going to have this like vertically like this. I would stuff the wires inside it, and then I would have this vertical thing on the back of the diorama. I don't know. It was just an idea because I'm using these wooden channels in other places, much smaller, but they work great. This, didn't work. But as I'm trying to figure out how to cut a straight slot out of this, I discovered that it's not tight now because I've cut, the slot out of it, but I put this in here, originally without it cut, and man, it went in there super snug. I mean, and it wasn't planned, it just worked. I put it in there, and when I put it in there so snug, it was holding it. When I was trying to cut along this to try to cut this channel out, I'm holding it as steady as I can, and the knife blade, the regular knife blade, because it's beveled on both sides, it would do this. It would not want to cut a straight line when I'm just holding this. Once I took this, placed it in this channel, then I was able to take this. I use this all the time. It's a marking gauge, and I use it for cutting all manner of things. Thin styrene, it's great at. There's a little cutting blade there. And I can vary, the depth of the marking gauge. If you're a woodworker, you know exactly what this is. If you're not, you maybe not have seen one before, but it's a very standard tool in woodworking. And it's got this very sharp circular blade on the end of it, okay? And that circular blade is meant to, when you're trying to mark like a line along a straight edge, you basically come here and it makes a little cut along there. Well, it also works great for a lot of other stuff. And so what I did is, see if I can do this, is I put it on here like this, and then I set this gauge like that, okay, so that it came down and made contact at a certain point on one side. And if I flipped it over, it did the exact same thing on the other side, to basically then give me the ability to cut this slot very even, very square, very straight on one side of this circular styrene. It's a very simple process, But if you don't know how to do it, it was a son of a gun before I figured it out. So that gave me some really nice cut tubes like this. So I've got a slot going in and out of it. Then what did I do? Okay. So, and what's all this for? Okay, again, I'm trying to hide wires going up this one side of the diorama. So this is what I did. Cut it there. You can kind of see the line that's been scored there. Once it was scored, I was able to remove that piece. Then I took some smaller pieces wrapped around there like they were joints, or, where they've joined two pieces of it. That's what it looks like. And then I mounted those vertically on basically the last singular pillar above where all the electrical is going to come up. I mounted them 3 on there on each individual one. And because of that slit on the side, sorry, I put some surfacer on there. There's that slit on the side, and you see there's some standoffs that are basically mounted onto the side of this. They're mounted here onto the side of this, and then I drilled into the wood here, and those go into the wood. So this thing is pretty sturdy, mounted into the wood. The slot allows me to put those wires in and take them out. They're not permanently in there. They can be removed very simply so that I can take the different levels off and pull the wires out and separate these levels. So I think it was a pretty elegant situation or solution. I'm not sure how it's going to look yet, because after I did that, I went ahead and put some Mr. Surfacer on it. There you can see some Mr. Surfacer. And there's two things that I'm looking at doing. Number one, a copper downspout, right? They had copper or lead downspouts for, gutters and stuff like that. That's the first one. And I can paint it copper and do some patina on it and kind of make it resemble a downspout. The problem with that is I don't have any gutters. And that was one of the issues that I came up on. I'm like, wow, well, I've got just this much tube. This is all the spare I have after doing the job I did there. I've only got this, and I don't have any other tubing that would work as gutters. So I'm like, well, I have no gutters, but I have a downspout. What the heck am I going to do? Well, I'm still working on that. The other idea is to make them either lead or ceramic. Okay, so now ceramic is a little bit of a push. Ceramic pipes and tube and all that kind of stuff was prior to medieval times, of course, in the 500s. The Romans, 500 BC, the Romans had clay sewer pipe and stuff like that. Did they use clay pipe, from a downspout? I don't know. I think it would be heavy. It would be hard to support. That's why copper or lead, right? It's just thinner, more pliable. So I kind of tried to make it look like it was either ceramic or copper, and how I paint it is going to tell you which. So that's kind of still up in the air. If it's copper, I'm going to have to add some kind of a gutter. If it's a pipe, like a sewer drain pipe, like ceramic, then it could be a drain. It could be somebody installed a funky drain. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with this. I've got it prepped to paint, and I'm going to do that later on this weekend, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if it's going to be copper or if it's going to be like ceramic pipe or clay pipe. But that's kind of where it went. I do like the fact that they are individually attached to each level. So if I remove this level, I can just pull the wires out because of the slit in the side. I mounted it in such a way that I can just pull those wires out of there. Pull the wires out, and I can separate those. Now, the wires are still going to be attached. So, yeah, it's not just, oh, so elegant. No, it's not. It's going to be a little funky, but you can do it. So, yeah, I think it's not a bad solution. Can I come up with a better one? Sure. And I'm thinking about that. But for now, this is what I can do. I had some great suggestions online. Some absolutely fantastic things that I'm like, man, I should have done that. Man, I should have done that, but they were things that should have happened, for me at least, earlier on. People that suggested them, perfect, they're right on time. But for me, I should have thought of those things earlier on, and then I could have done some things to implement some of those ideas. I had great ideas, like a couple that I'm really excited about. Not for this, I'm going to do it a different one. Would be a chimney. Number one, a chimney. Love the idea of a chimney. This is based on a book, that I read in the mid to late '80s. Raymond Feist is the author. Magician was the beginning of these books. This one in particular is set in Krondor, so it's like the sixth or eighth book in the series. This is from a different series from the very first series. But this is Rise of a Merchant Prince is the actual name of the book. And it's about a young guy named Rupert that gets in some trouble, gets put in the army. After he's in the army, he survives on a special mission and he comes back and he wants to start a business. And one of the things that I think was so wonderful about this story and the time that I read it, I was kind of in that same scenario. This particular book came out in the early '90s. I'd been reading it, the author and prior books, very enthralled with. Mrs. Modelcraft has read them all too because I liked them so much. She says, "Well, I got to read these things," and she loves them. And the characters and the story, everything. But anyway, the point is, in the early '90s, when I started reading this particular book, in the world that I've been familiar with for many years, I had recently gotten out of the military. I was starting my journey in business and things like that. And I found parallels. There's more parallels because in his journey in trying to create his own business, and again, what story have you ever read of in medieval times starting a business? That's the main push of the book. Starting your own business in medieval times. That right there was fascinating to me because I'd never heard of any medieval story like that. It's always dragons and magicians and blah, 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 and court intrigue, which all of those are present, but I'd never heard that. So I loved it. And so as I'm going through that, I'm reading this book and I'm thinking about not a personal relationship with Rupert Avery, like me as a parallel to him, because he's a pretty bad guy, and I never was a bad guy. But it's just the fact that he got out of the military, he starts this, he fails, he starts working at a restaurant, which I worked in a restaurant as a kid before the military, so there was a parallel there. This is Krondor is the Western Realm's biggest city, and Barrett's Coffee House is a really high upscale restaurant in the Western Realm's biggest city. So it was a big deal. And just those elements of the story were so fun to read about while I was going through something somewhat similar, and there were just all these parallels, that it really embedded the storyline and the situations and the places and the things in those stories, so much so that when I started building this diorama, it's just a journey. It's just such a fun and enjoyable step back, to the '90s, to step back into the book, to step back into those thoughts, to relive those images that I built in my mind, because there's been no movie and illustrations of the book really. It's just the cover. So you're creating this story that you're so in love with for a couple of decades, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. You've been so in love with, and then you can imagine it in a diorama. That's what I just love this diorama for that. Mrs. Modelcraft loves this diorama in particular because she also remembers the stories and the book and the situations and stuff like that. So yeah, I just want to kind of bring that in because when you're figuring out what you want to build, when you're figuring out how you can stay motivated, this is almost, I'm 10 months into this. I've been building this thing since May of last year when I started this. I think that if you're going to do something for that long and you don't have that real personal connection, you don't have that real, history with the subject matter and stuff like that, it can make it very difficult. Now, if you're a super disciplined builder, I don't think so. You know your stuff and you can do it. For me, though, I've got to, I've got to get in that diorama. I've got to have that personal connection. I've got to have that story that I'm a part of. It's not I'm putting this chair here because it looks good. I'm putting this chair here because in the story, the upright man, who's like a big bad guy, has an office. And his office, you go in there and there's a desk, a light, a chair, and a chair. That's it. So when I'm building that chair, I'm not building a chair. I'm building a chair because of the scene and all the emotion from the story that I read in the 90s, 30 plus years ago, that I had this such a strong connection with. So that was just, I don't know, I just wanted to talk to you about that, I guess, because it's just wonderful. I got some more folks that came in. I want to say hello. Donna Pritchett says, hi, Bill. In 1800s, I'm sorry, in this country, wood was used as gutters and downspouts. See, there you go, Donna. That's wonderful. And I thought about that because I have seen like older gutters. I haven't seen a downspout out of wood, but I have seen wooden gutters before. Pictures, when I was doing research and stuff like that. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. This is supposed to be around, well, number one, in the book, it's an alien planet. It is Europe after Rome, basically, early medieval time, 1000, 1100 AD, whatever, something like that. But all the parables have to be there to real European continent time, blah, 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 for us to understand it. So in this world, it's medieval times, and I don't think they ever mentioned a gutter or a downspout, but wood would have been perfect. And I like doing wood. I said that before. I just like woodworking. So if I can do it out of wood, I will. But that's great. Thank you very much, Donna. I'm going to remember that because in the future, that's maybe not a bad way to go. We have a water pipe made of wood. That's awesome. That's cool. Thanks, Bob. And like I said, I've seen that kind of thing before, but when it came to this, and I thought, where is it? This was going to be something similar to that because I was going to round these and stuff like that, but it was too big and just, it didn't work. It did work for cutting the styrene, thankfully. But yeah, it just didn't work on the model. But I may do wood gutters, Donna and Bob, because that could work. I could make a wood gutter pretty easy. I've got routers, stuff like that. Because I don't have any more of this to make a gutter, to make a copper gutter. But then I could paint that as wood or whatever, and then have wood gutters, which would be great because I just have more wood as a material, and I'm pretty good at working with wood, so I could make a wood gutter easy. So yeah, thank you very much. I think I might go with that. Because I think by having the downspout, you're like, well, what is that? Is it just to cover wires? No, if it connects to a gutter, I think that just looks better. It completes it. And the front of the thing would look better with a gutter. So thanks very much, Donna and Bob. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, so where are we at? We're just about done, frankly. I do want to go back and talk about my patron, because patron has been a little funky. And I really want to spend a little bit of time on this because I've had a heck of a time. So, I am looking for a day job not because we're in financial, and I want to get that across because some folks send in some money, and gosh, thank you so much, tips and things like that. Adriana sent in a thank you, and thank you, Adriana. That was just so nice. And then I think it's L. I have to look them up. Man, I'm sorry, but I had another company, Loki Hosting. That's them. Loki Hosting sent in a tip too, and thank you so much. That's wonderful. And tips I'm happy with. I think it's wonderful. But I was worried that folks were sending me money because they're thinking I don't have money to live. That is not absolutely 100% not the issue. What I don't have money for was the money that it was necessary to keep the channel going. And that's why I need to go get a day job. The channel's doing fine. I'm redoing it and we're fine. And, you know, me and Mrs. Modelcraft, everything is fine. And I want to make sure that I say it because it's almost a disservice to Mrs. Modelcraft, who's working and has been for the last 4.5 years. You know, we both worked for many, many years, you know, built up all that. Anyway, so we're fine financially. It's just that the channel itself was costing money instead of paying for itself. That was my big crisis. So a couple weeks ago, I decided I need to get a day job. I'm continuing the channel, certainly, but I need to get a day job just to kind of supplement the channel until the channel starts picking up and taking off. So that was the issue that I was facing a couple of weeks ago. I've done some things, I've turned that around. I am searching for a day job, but I don't need you to send me money. We are very well provisioned. Mrs. Modelcraft is still working and she's wonderful. We've been together since 90 for criminy sake. So we're nice and stable. All that's good. It was just the channel itself wasn't making enough money to pay its own bills. And I thought after 4.5 years, it should be. So I just wanted to get that out. The reason that I wanted to talk about Patreon is because Patreon was my site where folks could pay a monthly subscription and get content that's exclusive to that. And I had problems with that because I don't think, posting enough. I wasn't getting a lot of people joining because I didn't think I was getting enough stuff up there. So I suspended it. I didn't kill it. I just suspended my Patreon. So all the folks on my Patreon, they're not being charged. They can still see everything on Patreon. And I want to bring it back, but not until I get things running right for the channel. I feel, you know, I was blue collar, you know, grew up blue collar and all that kind of stuff. So it was always, my parents taught us dollar for dollar. You work a dollar, you get paid a dollar, right? What I don't want to do is I'm working 50 cents with the Patreon and you give me a dollar. That's the problem. Can't do that. It doesn't work up here for me. That's a big deal. And so that's why I suspended it. When I get you that value, enough is going to Patreon, and I think what I'll do is I'll start doing that up before I start charging again for the people that are there, you know, so they can get some more. Then I'll feel better about, you know, charging again for Patreon. So the Patreon's not going away, but the problem is I didn't think I was giving enough value. I didn't think I was providing enough for people to pay $3 because it's $3 flat fee for everything. I didn't believe I was supplying enough for people to pay me that, and I didn't feel good about it. And I really appreciate everybody that's paid, and I've made some amazing friends on Patreon. I don't want anybody to go away, and I still want to do stuff with you. I just didn't feel good while I'm trying to get this thing going again and you know, charging down the road. I didn't feel good about taking money and not giving you something specifically for it. So that's why. I don't have any Patreon activities going on at this point. We're not going to do the thing tonight, which is typically on Fridays for patrons. I would have a group build. We're not doing that tonight. That's one of the things that's going to be coming back. maybe on the third week of this month, because the third week of the month is typically when I do a Sunday, where Sunday I have a 3 hour block of time and people can come in and we work together and have fun online. That'll come back. Everything will come back. It's just, again, I gotta make sure that I'm putting up enough content that you're happy with it, and I feel that there's value. I really want value. So, yeah, I don't want to take your money if you're not receiving my fiduciary, which is making sure that it's good content. So, all that is to say, it will come back, but for now I just didn't want to. But thank you so much, all of my folks that have contributed. And like I said, it's all still there. Nothing's gone. I have not taken anything down. I have opened up the entire site for all of the patrons that have already paid. They can see virtually everything on there. There's no levels anymore. There's no tiers. There's no nada. You can see it all. And that's what I'm going to continue with when I come back. I'm not going to add more tiers. It's just going to be one tier, and I think it'll be good. So, thanks very much. For letting me, get that out. One other wonderful thing that happened this week, and this is a personal thing, but I got contacted by a friend of mine that I was in the Army with, back in the 80s. And it was wonderful. Ray, man, I'm telling you, my attitude, because I'm going through some really, trying to get I'm working really hard to get the channel right and all that kind of stuff. It was just a bright light. It was wonderful to reconnect with a friend of mine that, you're in your 20s. It's like a college friend. If you didn't do military, maybe you went to college, or maybe it was like your first job out of high school or something like that. These are the friendships that I'm talking about. Those friendships when you're young, you're out of the house for the first time, and you connect with people and you're doing something together. In the military, it's very, very visceral. You're doing really difficult things. So you make really great friendships and relationships. And I was contacted today. And the great thing is it's from another friend that, gave him my number, which, Tim, thank you. It's just so fun. And Tim, my friend. So this is one of those things that when maybe you're having a hard time, because I was having a hard time because of the channel and stuff, there's just something out there in the world that can recognize that. And I don't know the mechanics behind it or the mechanisms or anything, but something made that happen. Certainly it was Tim. Thank you, Tim. But it was also, there's stuff there happening to help. And you just got to be receptive to it. I'm a big believer in faith, but I'm not going to get religious or anything on you, but faith. You can have faith no matter what your belief systems are. You can have faith. And faith in other people, faith in yourself, faith in your spouse, faith in your family. You can have faith without assigning it to a deity. But there's nothing wrong with assigning it to a deity. That's a wonderful thing. And for me personally, I felt like Tim and Ray and the other people that are associated with that really brought something back that was very, very special and really needed. You need those things. So something out there is providing me with something that is just wonderful. And so thank you to whoever's responsible. And thanks, Tim, and thanks, Ray, because that was an absolute wonderful thing. So it was just neat. If you haven't had the chance to do that, if you haven't had a chance to reconnect with people and you're like, I don't know, and blah, blah, give it a shot. It was very, very fun. And my wife, Mrs. Modelcraft, has heard stories about these gentlemen and those times. And it's neat to reconnect that. So anyway, that was just a joy, and I really wanted to share that, and it really helped me. It really helped me. Don't think that you're in a spot where it's all black. I'm not that kind of person, but I can get down a little bit. But there's things out there that if you need it and I think you're receptive to it, it'll come to you and help you. And that did. That was wonderful. Scott says the only non-monetary tip I can give you is don't play the dollar slots. You are 100% right. So now we're going to go into a story based on this. I had a guy in my unit, and not the same unit I'm talking about with Ray and Tim. Later on, I went and I was stationed in Berlin. And there was a wonderful guy there. I'm not going to give any names. It's not necessary. But he had a problem with slot machines and helped him, worked it out of him, stuff like that. But he had a problem with slot machines. So you're absolutely right, Scott. Don't play with them one-armed bandits because that's all they're there to do is take from you. I've never been a gambler, ever. You know what? I went to Vegas and I did not gamble once. Went there on business stuff like that. I didn't lay $1 down. I went to Reno one time and I spent $20. That was it. That is the end of my gambling. My brother will go to Vegas and really loves it and stuff. I am not a gambler in that right. I do not do it. It's just not for me. I get no fun out of it. Winning or losing doesn't matter to me. No fun out of it. So if you have any tips like Scott, some good ones like there, I'm right there with Scott. Don't play the dollar slots. Well, thank you, everybody. I had a wonderful time today. I hope you enjoyed this. I've got more content coming. Man, I'm so close to this thing. This electrical was kind of a booger. Finally got past it. So I'm super happy about that. Now I can kind of get back to the rest of it because the rest of it is pretty much decorating. I need to decorate the thing. There's some things out here I got to do, but pretty much it's just final stuff. So I'm pretty happy about that. And here pretty soon, I'm going to be starting my new diorama, my next one. And I've got some great ideas, and I've talked to my friend John Harrison. He's from Ireland. I've talked to John Harrison about it. So John has an idea of what I'm going to do, but I've not talked about it with anybody else. Maybe Mrs. Modelcraft a little bit. But I don't honestly know. I'm not 100% on anything about what my next project is, but I got to start thinking about it. And I'm pretty excited about it too. I'm not going to do something quite so big because I would like to do some projects that go a little bit quicker. You know, this is almost a year. And my last one before that was almost a year. It was 9 months. This has actually been longer. So I'd like to do some smaller dioramas because I've done dioramas this big, you know, and I can still do my underground stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I've alluded to some stuff earlier on, and some of that might come out. But that's going to be the next thing coming up after this one. And like I said, this is almost done. So thank you so much. Will says, the only place I gamble is penny slots in Deadwood. I limit myself to $20. Smart person. That was the thing I said that time I went to Reno. I said, okay, I have $20. That's it. Win or lose. If I win it, I will not contribute anything else out of my wallet. That's what I told myself. So when the 20 was gone, it was done. And it was gone pretty quick because I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm the same way, Will. Daniel, gutters are a great solution. Old friends can balm on the soul. Old friends can be balm to the soul. You're absolutely correct. It just, you know, it was just a feeling of talking to him and some remembered things and his personality. I like to think I'm a pretty positive person. My friend Ray is the most positive person in the world, and he's just wonderful. And he's just solid people. It's just was really, really great. Keep the faith and carry on, my friend. Thank you, Will, and you too. I mean, folks, faith is a great, great thing. And if it's in God that you have faith, if it's in yourself that you have faith, if it's in your ideas that you have faith, faith keeps you going when sometimes there are stumbles or rocks in your path and you trip and things like that. Faith will keep you going. There's nothing bad that comes from having faith. So keep it going. Bob says, don't play the ponies. My grandfather, my dad's dad, would play the ponies. He would go, because Los Angeles, I don't remember the track, but it's a famous track down in Los Angeles back in the day. My grandfather was born in 1900, so it tells you the kind of the time zone and stuff like that. But yeah, he played the ponies. That was his thing. I don't know how he gambled or what. They weren't financially dire, so they did okay. But yeah, that was his only thing. And dog racing. I was on the East Coast for years in the military and stuff like that. Dog racing was like a big thing on the East Coast that I never really knew anything about. Thank you, Bill. You're the best. Thank you very much, Scott. You are wonderful. Scott is one of my friends online. We talk almost every single day, and it's really great, and I appreciate it. I've talked about friends a lot. I don't know. I am kind of a hermit. It's a fact. I just am. My whole life, kind of a hermit, kind of a loner. Didn't have, I have great friends, wonderful people, but it's not like hundreds of friends, right? It's that core. And I feel like the friends that I do have, I'm real tight with and close to. But I have like a friend of mine, Bill. We've been friends for 20 years. I talk to him maybe once a year. I'm that kind of person. Maybe that's good or bad. I don't know. I don't know how you are about that. I'm just kind of a loner, And in my shop here, it's just my place. So it's not like I have friends over a lot, or even go to other friends' houses a lot. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a good relationship. Anytime Bill and I get on the phone, it's just great. We just we've talked for 2 hours on the phone. He lives, 45 minutes away. Maybe see him once a year. Great friend. Love the guy. He's just fantastic. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And some people can't have those kind of relationships. Some people have to have those relationships that are continuously reaffirmed and stuff like that. I personally don't. If you're my friend, you're my friend. Done. It's not, if I haven't talked to you in 3 months, it doesn't mean I don't like you. I haven't talked to you in 3 months. That's it. And that's maybe different for some folks. I don't know, but that's just the way I've always kind of been. I like doing stuff alone. It's neat being on here and interacting with people, and I love that, and I enjoy it, and it's important to do it. When I was literally thinking about, man, the channel's not working, I got to go to get my job, and maybe I got to put the channel down for a little bit. There was a problem with that, and that's why it had to change. I didn't want to not make videos and talk to the people that I make videos for and talk to. Does that make any kind of sense whatsoever? And it was more than I don't know. It's hard for me to express it. I have friends online that I feel like if I don't do something, and it's not a negative thing. Please don't think it's that. It's not negative that I think that they want me to put out some content. It's not like that. It's kind of how we communicate. I communicate with my friends online by making a video because I'm talking to my friends when I'm talking to the camera. I'm thinking Will, I'm thinking Scott, I'm thinking Bob, I'm thinking, those are the people that I'm talking to you. So for me, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm a loner. And if I'm with you, we'll have a nice conversation. But it's not like I can just like go into a crowd and start doing small talk, like going to parties and stuff. Never did it. couple of times because I don't know what to say. I'm in there and I'm looking at people and what do you say? I have no concept of what to say, like in a mingling or a party atmosphere or something like that. It's not my gig. I don't know. But here, I feel like through on the phone or when we're talking or even texting or something like that, me and Scott, we have, nice stuff going back and forth. It's a really nice way to communicate. I really thoroughly enjoy it. I don't want to stop that. And that was one of the things that was really difficult when I wasn't sure how the channel was going here a few weeks back and how to make it work and how to go forward. It wasn't like I could just walk away from it. I don't know if I ever expressed it that way. There was no way to walk away from it. This is an integral thing that I do now. This making videos and talking to you and stuff, and it's a part of my day that I don't want to lose. I feel like I would be losing friends if I did that, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, I don't know. There's just weird stuff about being online, doing this kind of thing. It's a whole different thing for me, but it's also very fulfilling. I really enjoy interacting with folks this way. Maybe it's because I'm talking and they're not. That sounds terrible. That's not what I mean, because when I'm online face to face and we are doing like in our groups and stuff, we talk back and forth. So I don't know. See, I'm just saying stupid stuff. I need to just get off. But thank you very much, folks. This is just, weirdness that I say, I guess. But I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate being online with you. And I enjoy this. So I hope you do too. And if you'd like to see something different, if you'd like to see something more, you say, I point and this and that, and you're like, hey, Bill, but what about that? Ask and I'll show you. I would love to be able to give the feeling of you're in the shop and we're just like walking around looking at stuff. That I'm working on those kind of videos too, because I like that. I think that's a lot of fun. Having you over and just showing you stuff in the shop. So anyway, again, it's like I gotta stop talking. Bob says, you have a wonderful way with relating. I feel I have known you for a long time. That, and I get that same thing. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm not holding back nothing, really. I think when I stammer, it's because I don't want to say something stupid, or I forget a word. I forget words all the time now. I'm 61 this year and I forget words all the time when I'm trying to say something. Because I used to be very, very, I could elucidate or, whatever I always liked big words because it just seemed like you're smarter than you are if you can use big words. So I used to use big words a lot and try to, use impressive speech, which was really horrific because I didn't know the meanings of the word. So it was kind of like a living color skit. I don't know. But anyway, I do enjoy it very much. So thanks very much, Bob. Let me see. Bob's. I believe you could talk fly off of honey. Talk a fly off of honey. Well, thank you. I think that's pretty good. I'm not going to say what I was just about to say, but it was funny when I was younger. You're a stand-up cat. Well, thank you very much, Scooter. I appreciate it, Scooter Pumpkin Shooter. That's really, really sweet. Thank you very much. Hey, Mark, you got to go. So do I. Man, I am just dragging this damn thing out and doesn't need to be there. I really enjoyed everybody being on today. Thank you so much for showing up and spending a little bit of time with me on a Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It's really nice in the Pacific Northwest this weekend. I hope it's going to be nice for you too. I'm going to get out there and do some more yard work because we had a big old storm a few days ago and I had to do a bunch of stuff out there. And I'm going to do some more today. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will be here building and doing stuff, and I'll show you some pictures. I hope you have a great day. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.